Pure in heart. And our main two talkers are not here today, so Ty said he's going to fill in the gap. So go, Ty.
Go Ty.
Go get your time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, there's like a formula to this, isn't there? There's like the beginning where it's all light and fluffy. Yeah.
Right.
When you guys were gone, that was like
We only have fun for Rachel.
That's Rachel's thing. She was always like, we like to have fun. And she called out my start when I tried to transition after like 10 minutes.
Transition too early. She doesn't like that.
Yeah.
She'll call it out.
Yeah.
That I did good.
What's your week been like?
It's been crazy. I mean, so I'm working for the summer. I'm doing both my normal job at North Central, and then there's an acrobatic studio that I've coached at in the past, and so I'm back there a bit for the summer, doing about 3 days a week there. But until June, that looks like morning I'm at North Central, and then in mid-afternoon I go on. I'm at the studio until 8 or 9 o'clock at night. Then I go home. Yeah, so it's like a full 12-hour day.
Yeah, I feel like if you ask anybody what their life has been like, what's been going on, I feel like 99% of the time people's answer is it's been busy.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had a moment. I'm dealing with a person that I don't want to deal with anymore. I'm trying to buy something off Facebook Marketplace, and I've been trying to get a date. I have to drive 4 hours to buy something.
Oof.
And so trying to get details locked down is important for that, because it's an entire day to go there and back. And it's been difficult, and I just told her that she's difficult to work with. And her response was, "Sorry, I work a lot." And I wanted to say, who doesn't?
We all do.
I don't care. I'm trying to be nice. Blessed. I'm trying to live last week's blessed are the merciful. It's not working. I may have made a joke about harming her, which wasn't good. So I'm repentant.
There is one beatitude that's strikingly missing. Blessed are the stupid. I don't know how to finish that one, but
Yeah, they are not blessed. Unfortunately.
That's the line that God couldn't cross. You know, He does a lot of heavy lifting for us, but
Isn't that this week's the pure in heart? Isn't oh bless their heart? Isn't that how you say? That's a stupid person. You're pure in heart because you don't know better.
Interesting.
Is that what that means?
yeah, I don't think it does. But I bet you it makes you feel better.
You have a pure heart. That's what I'm gonna say every time I think somebody's dumb.
Oh man, you have such a pure heart.
Bless your pure heart.
What?
I don't know where to go from here.
You guys just got back.
We did.
I mean, like, you got back. You've been back for a week, but you missed last week's podcast. So
Oh, we podcast.
you podcast this week? I was gone. We had 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago we did.
Ah,
It does lead in perfectly because part of my issue with this lady, and
Yeah.
part of the moment where you think somebody's stupid, is because of usually unmet expectations. I have an expectation that somebody trying to sell something will make it easy for me to come give them thousands of dollars.
Yes.
Apparently, that's a unreasonable expectation. I don't know. When we do coaching for like premarital counseling and coaching, most of our stuff is based on expectations.
Mm-hmm.
How do you manage two people with that may have different expectations? How do you manage those moments where things come together? When have you felt frustrated by unspoken or unmet expectations? I know you've had that. It may be too fresh. Maybe something you don't want to talk about publicly on a podcast.
Yeah.
I think. Did you want to talk?
No, I'll let you go. You're on your phone.
No, I just think expectations. Everything that every bad moment that I have is because of unmet expectations. I just want to know what is expected and then do it.
Yeah.
Like, or maybe it's more just in relationship with people. It's the because people moment. There's a lot of communication needed to make sure expectations are actually being met and what they actually are. And I understand that it is a problem of mine to get irrationally angry when expectations are shattered.
You know, honestly, I was Kevin and Mills. They invited us, a whole bunch of people over to their house. They had like a
The little concert?
cookout and,
Yeah.
and concert, and Mitch was there,
Mhm.
and you've known Mitch for a long time, and
Mhm.
and he said that being a part of Corner has softened you in a good way. It's made you a lot more merciful and flexible.
That's fascinating.
That is,
Good.
Yeah,
That's
it's
nice.
It's working.
Growth.
It's
All
working.
right.
No, I think something you said that was like really, and maybe like my situation where unmet expectations is, I feel like a lot of people that when people get upset about expectations not being met, it's not that the expectation was communicated; it's that it was implied,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so I don't think people take enough time to explore and communicate their expectations.
Would you rather have a moment of missed expectations happens? Which side would you rather be on? Would you rather be on the side that it was your expectation that was missed, or that you missed somebody else's expectation?
I would rather be on the side of my expectation being missed for this reason. I will chronically take blame for everything, even if I guess I want to fix everything in the world, and so if there's a problem and it happened, I didn't prevent it, so it was my fault, even if I couldn't have prevented it. So I would rather not have that guilt and instead walk around being frustrated than the other way.
I think I'm the other side of that.
All right. Yeah, I'm with Ty. Rather be on the, I've done my end of the transaction. I'm waiting for someone else, because because transactions can be somewhat complicated. And so if you've done your half of the complicated, transaction, you're waiting for someone, the other person has to do a similar kind of a complicated part of the task. They also have the other person kind of looking down on them, judging them, going, why aren't you doing this? So to me, I'd rather be in the complicated and being in the, feeling like, my end of the, I've done my responsibility, rather than doing complicated and having someone looking down on me for not having done my end.
I don't like either of them. I think my expectations.
Okay, another way to think about it that may, I think, make it clearer. Would you rather have too high of expectations for someone else, or someone have too high of expectations for you?
Again, I'm also chronically hopeful, and like Rachel doesn't get it, where I'm like, no, they're gonna come through, promise they're gonna come through, and then they don't. It's like, or I want more out of someone, and
I'm in this weird spot where I'm very trusting of people, but also I don't have very high expectations of people, and I think those actually probably help one another.
Yeah.
My letdowns aren't usually that catastrophic. I usually go, they're people. Rich doesn't like any of it.
I would rather have high expectations of people and them not be met than for them to have high expectations of me. But it's so close though.
Yeah.
And this is where so Phil Ensminger, shout out to Phil, sent Greg and I essentially a little assessment about what our sabotage things are, what we end up doing to an extreme that sabotages leadership sometimes and some other stuff. And one of my highest ones was hyper rational. So when Greg asked the question, the first thing that was in my head is all of the other parts that pour into it because I can go through and like, it's like, well, I can't just answer that question because I have to rationalize this and
He's
rationalize this.
sabotaging the
And
conversation.
I'm sabotaging the conversation because of it. But I did answer the question, and I think that is correct. But there's a lot more nuance to it that we could go into for hours.
But in a moment you have high expectations, or just any expectations for somebody, and they're not met, does the motivation for that unmet expectation, does that change things for you? Like Rich and I were talking on the way here about working with people and how change is hard for people sometimes. And so sometimes people will just like do anything other than change the thing that needs to be changed
Mhm.
because it's easier. And I'm far on the side of like, let's just try. Like if we're trying and fail, it's great.
Mhm.
It's when we don't try and fail that will drive me nuts. And so for me, that like the try and fail for me is a good example of pure heart. Like I'm gonna be hopeful. For me, pure heart means we're operating out of hope.
I think relationship affects expectation. Probably for everybody, but definitely for me. Like I'm going to expect way more out of someone who, one, is either in a position like that's what they do, that's the goal of their vocation or strengths or whatever, or if we've had that presence over time for years, and I know like all of those things, the strengths and like what you like to do or don't like to do. Like I'm gonna probably have deeper expectations for people who I know than for someone that I see on the street and go, well, I'm not going to expect you to do these things that I would expect Ty to do, right? It's like, and then I wouldn't expect Ty to do things that I maybe would expect like my brother to do. Like it just gets deeper and deeper. But I think that it affects. I think it affects this story as well. But
Yeah, when you're the one with the expectations, you have a modicum of control because, a lot of times I try to say, okay, I'm going to have the lowest possible expectations, so I'm not disappointed, and just not, and know this is how I would do it, but that's not me, so I need to, and that's part of delegation when you're in leadership, is saying, I know that it won't get done exactly like I do it, and that's okay.
Yeah, it's the believing the best.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And maybe even trusting that you don't know what best actually is. It's kind of the hardest part.
And on the other side of it, I want to be as transparent as possible, so people, when they ask me for things, can look and go, I know that this 80% is going to get done great, and this 20% is going to be okay, because I know Rich. Like I know all and I hope that I communicate in a transparent way so that it goes the other direction. So.
Yeah.
We've been interrupting Ty for
No, it's fine. No. And I mean, maybe in the paradigm of my beliefs is, and this is shaped by a college professor had this statement, I believe in explanations, not excuses. And that was like, he had expectations for his students in the class, things that he wanted us to do, tasks he wanted us to perform, whether it's like homework or assignments out in the community, because it was an interpreting class. And so, so that's also like, that belief kind of holds my bridge in tension of like, I have high expectations. I trust that people are going to come through. I'm like willing to, let someone set me up for a downfall. But at the same time, I'm also like, I don't know, your motivation doesn't really matter. I feel like tasks are tasks. Like you just got to do what you got to do. And all of us have had to live in that stage of you just have to get it done. And so, so yeah, that's like the paradigm that holds my beliefs in tension is I believe in explanations, not excuses.
I think this is like, I was talking about you to somebody recently. And it was just like, Ty is just, when he commits to something, no matter if it's the best thing in the world or the worst thing in the world, what I know is that he's going to be there. He's just it's like, yep, okay, this moment, these things are hard, whatever. And I think that like that's just a testament to like to how you view the world and how you view people. It's like it's not a feeling in any moment doesn't dictate the reality of the situation, I guess, or the hope that you have for
I try to remain hopeful.
it. Okay, so then what is? I don't.
I have so many more things to say about expectations, but let's move on.
I can talk about expectations forever.
Forever.
Someone explain to me what pure in heart means.
It's kind of been a trope. Like you think about like Arthur and the Round Table, obviously like at this point in time that's being written, they're influenced heavily by Christianity and this idea. And so you have Galahad who's tested to see if he's pure in heart. A lot of times like that trope has morphed over time to now like even the person pulling the sword out of the stone, it's because they're pure in heart, or lifting Thor's hammer, it's a quality of character. And I think what Scripture calls and the standard that God sets the expectation of pure in heart, and then God's hand in delivering us to that state is a lot higher than what we see in like even stories and movies. But yeah, it's that idea. It's like a quality. Like you have to be pure in heart to lift this sword out of the stone.
In that sense, it feels like pure in heart is either something you have or you don't.
Yeah.
Which makes it feel like it's not something you can get. Which I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what that's my initial reaction. It's like, well, I guess those people are gonna be blessed because I'm not one of them.
I think that's like the message of or at least part of the message of the gospel though, is we existed in the start in this place, the garden, and in relationship with God and relationship with creation and with each other, and then we step outside of our place and all of that, and order is broken and chaos enters and reigns, and it's this story of like people are chaos hunger. There's a certain level of chaos that everybody enjoys. That's why like sports are enjoyable. There's a certain level of chaos that everybody enjoys.
Yeah.
If you're a Minnesota Twins fan, there's a certain amount of chaos you can withstand. And then
Rip the Timberwolves. Good job, Tommy.
and then but the story is that God is constantly in this state of bringing things back into order, healing a relationship between himself and us, and showing us how to heal a relationship with each other and with our environment, creation, and that restoration of order and bringing about of beauty and abundance in the world around us. That's I think that's a big part of the message of the gospel.
Yeah.
What God accomplishes in and through us.
I think this beatitude, I'm gonna go out on a limb. This is just a feeling that I have, but I feel like this one is different than the other ones so far. I feel like a lot of times in Scripture, or even today, the way that God talks to people today, to me, to people in the past, is He uses their language, their understanding, to help move them from one spot to the next.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this language, blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God, spoken to a Jewish audience, reflects the work of the priests in the tabernacle. The priests were the only ones that were pure enough that they had the way to become ritually pure to enter the Holy of Holies and actually be in God's presence. And so it's this phrasing, I think, is saying what was available to be in God's presence to the priests in the tabernacle and the temple is now available to everybody. It's not for a select few, it's for everybody. That doesn't answer my question about how do we become more pure in heart, but I do think it's a opening of the door from people that thought I would never be able to be in God's presence to no, you are people that can be in God's presence, and here's the path to do that.
Yeah, one of the commentaries that I looked at it said that it's not restricted to moral or physical purity. It's someone who loves God with all his heart, with an undivided loyalty, and whose inward nature corresponds with outward profession. Which I think it's the ambulance principle. It's the being and doing. It's the your profession outwardly is changing your inwardly, which is changing, like affecting your outward, and then that's how you live. So I think that it's a slow burn for some of us.
Because there's a lot of people that
But
there's a lot of people that look good just because they're concerned about looking good. You know, that was the
Mhm.
Pharisees and Sadducees. But you know, like the priests, you know, their motivation was to that their the way they appeared was an outgrowth of their hard attitude, and you know, and even there, you know, there was a concession to that because every priest, when he went into the Holy of Holies, had something tied around his ankle in
Just in
case he
case.
wasn't, in case he wasn't pure heart. You know,
and
I mean,
yeah.
it'd be a lot more work if it was the Pharisees going in there, people, every single one out. Another one.
I think that ties right into it's available to everyone now,
Yes.
but there's work that needs to be done.
Mhm.
It's not like the rest of the Beatitudes. It's action. It's not passive. It's not all of a sudden you're pure in heart, cool. Just
Yeah. I have achieved it, and now I'm done.
I say this to a lot of people, and it's probably going to get me in trouble.
nice.
I think that the mid 1900s evangelism circuit revival movement of Billy Sunday and then Billy Graham, and that was really damaging to Christianity. And that the biggest invention out of that wasn't the way that they operated their service, but the idea of the sinner's prayer. At least the way that we think of it modern. And that there's this moment you say the sinner's prayer, you ask Jesus into your heart, and like there's like, oh, it's a little kid version, and then you go big kid, but that's the moment you become Christian. Boom, that's when you become a Christian, and then you're a Christian until you decide you're not a Christian, but like all your sins are, and like that becomes the goal. The goal becomes, can we get people saved? Can we get people to say the prayer? Can we get people to a moment? And we were talking about premarital counseling and how there's this conversation expectation. And Scott has this saying that it's not about the crossing the Jordan; it's everything that comes after. And it's that continual one. So like I definitely am a big believer that it's not the sinner's prayer; it's the sinner's lifestyle. That might be the wrong wording, but the idea of like, am I continually submitting myself to this process of being in a relationship with God and letting that change me?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people who come to Corner, interact with Corner for a while, there's been at least a handful that I know of that they have this moment where they go, yeah, I wasn't Christian when I walked in here, but somewhere along the way I began submitting my life to God and wanting more of this Jesus relationship. And now I would say, yeah, I'm a Christian. And so,
I had this very philosophical professor teaching theology, and he had this concept, and it's really interesting to go down the rabbit hole of it. But both with salvation and sanctification, he would say that those things exist outside of our frame of time.
Mhm.
Like God did them, is doing them, and will continue to do them. Like I was saved, I am saved, I'm being saved.
Mhm.
Uh, it's not framed within a moment of time, but it's a always existing, always continuing to exist concept.
I think what we just did here was set the stage for 2 bonus episodes of the Corner Church podcast. 1, salvation, sanctification, what's it look like? 2, altar call mentality, good or bad.
So join our Patreon.
All Patreon supporters get.
Salvation outside of time.
And I think that the pure in heart falls into that.
Yeah.
Pure in heart is it's something that we do and strive for, but it's something that God sees in His outside of timeness, I think.
And that reflects what Paul said, when he talks about, don't be drunk with wine, but be filled with the Spirit. The actual word there means being filled. It's an active thing that doesn't stop. It just goes.
Why do we like to we like to freeze time and use those as opportunities? The only benefit that gets us is the ability to judge ourselves and judge others, which is not our job anyways.
We want certainty. That we want control.
Certainty is safe.
It's that element of control that we want to grasp. We want to grasp that, and that's what's appealing to a lot of people about systems and structures of religion and yoga and science and all these different ways. Like we're always trying to find ways to grasp that control, and by being able to mark a moment, this is when you become a Christian.
Yeah.
That's just one more way to grasp a little bit more control. And it's,
I think when Jesus left the earth, his last thing was go and make disciples, and I think that we like to go, okay, that's one solid, go someplace else and make disciples. When really it's like being filled. It's as you are going about your life, make disciples. It's the onward.
As
The
you're being
continual.
disciples.
As you are,
being
yes,
discipled.
you are going to be being discipled, so keep discipling, and it continues. I think
You're
it's
being
important.
filled to fill others.
Yes.
Well, that's where we're gonna leave it today. I don't know if we figured out how to do it, but join us on Sunday and we'll go a little deeper on the tables.
Hopefully.